It's over here if it skips. There, that's better. Just can't move.
Jane, did you have some of those back there too?
Yes.
No, I just had to make sure. Yeah.
Maybe you just don't have my address. Are you the rock star here? Thank you. How are you? Of course you are. We're okay. We're okay. So we go to that. Ice, did you say? Ice. It's a, well, ice would be good for that. So that's what I'm going to keep in my mind. Don't switch. Just think ice when you're done. We're here. Yes. Did you win? I did. That's okay. Now I can open my mouth. Now you can,
Now I can open my mouth.
now you have more
My
time.
filter is off.
Now you have more time. I like what you say.
Thank you, thank you.
That's what I was just gonna.
Yeah, that is gonna get right on me. Huh? The light. Yeah, it will be. I think it'll go that
Why
way
don't
though.
you sit here and I'll get in the back? It doesn't seem to be bothering me yet.
I just have to. It's on my laptop.
That's all right.
Do you want to call this meeting to order? If everyone would stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How's this look? Mama, how's that look?
Good.
I guess you might have to sit there and just
We'll have
watch.
roll call.
Trick the ball and watch this one.
Paul Brown, please. Terry. Juan is present. Okay, we're here this evening for public comment regarding the cell tower at 120 Grand Avenue. And the purpose of our meeting tonight is to take comments, questions, and of course, if there's any solutions that anyone would like to share with the board, we're always interested in hearing that. The board has agreed to allow comments up to 5 minutes. We will hold to that so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. If comments are not related to an item on the agenda, there will be no board response or action taken since the topic was not posted with proper notice, and any comment could potentially violate the Colorado open meeting law. One thing we're trying to do so that everybody has an opportunity to speak is, everyone that's here tonight, is during the 5 minutes, if you make your comments to the board and hold your questions to the end of your 5 minutes, and then the board can respond to you individually as you come up, okay? And also, I just want to point out that we like to try to keep this very civil and respectful so that we can hopefully come to some solutions that'll be agreeable for everyone. We're not going to allow yielding your time to someone else, so use your 5 minutes wisely, and
Oh my God.
we'll start off. Jane?
Boy, this is really high.
You don't have to stand in front of it if you're not comfortable.
So I gave you a copy of some of my things, and my paper is on the table back there if you want to look at it. I'm not going to read through because I only have 5 minutes. I'm not good at talking for 5 minutes. But I want to go down. You can see this first page and second page are taken from the minutes of 2023 and 2024. They are written and printed exactly as they're printed in the minutes. But so 2023, all the way through 2023, it was mostly the tower was going to be built at the Brush Rifle Range location. May 8th, I wanna talk about that meeting just a little bit. That was to review and approve the lease, and it was scheduled to be voted on that night. The gentleman from Powder River Development was coming. He's who's been in charge of the tower. The exact location was to be determined during a sidewalk once the lease has been executed. A couple of emails that I had to do some record requests in order to get all of the information because what I got was pretty frail. This actual, and this will lead to a question, was an email between Kurt, who is from Powder River, and our town manager. Town manager saying, I just wanted to check and see if I needed blocks and times on Wednesday to tour the area with you, or if you need anything before your visit. And he said that would be fine. I plan to come in later in the afternoon, but would be happy to tour the area with you, say maybe 4-ish. I was unable to get a hotel room in Nucla, so I will head back to Grand Junction after the meeting. I'm just wondering if the town manager is the only one that walked the site, or if, and if that was the site out at the rifle range, or if that was the site at the shop. And you can answer whenever you get ready to answer questions. And then the next day, obviously something happened at that meeting, and I think you all have seen this, the notice of the board of trustees regularly scheduled meeting, which will be held on May 8th at 7 p.m. at the town hall. And then at the very bottom is the very small print, the public hearing at 7 p.m. for the proposed cell tower. So something must have happened at that meeting, because the next day, the town manager, at 8:25 in the morning, good morning, Kurt, I apologize, I wish the board would have been more adamant about the location prior to last night's meeting. I really didn't think they wouldn't approve it. The property where the water treatment facility is located at 29,300 3050 Road, the elevation is 5685. I also looked at our lease with NNTC, and we do not have any stipulations that would not allow another tower on our property at that address. So I'm curious about what happened at the May 8th meeting, since that is where the decisions seem to have made. And then the following meeting, the next meeting that was mentioned was in August, and they said, the same thing, review and approve the lease from Vertical Bridge at the brush dump rifle range location, the exact location to be determined during the site walk once the lease has been executed, tabled from November 8th, 2023, location to be determined, tabled again on May 8th, 2024. Update. T-Mobile approved the new location, uploaded the proposed location, etc. on the Google Drive. That was for you folks. The only items that will change on the lease is the exhibits. Kurt will forward as soon as he has received it back from T-Mobile between 2 weeks to a month. So that was on August 28th. Still didn't say where it was going to be, just that everybody had agreed on a new location. And then on October 23rd, review and approve the lease from Vertical Bridge at our town shop location. And then everything else stayed the same. It was a motion by Trustee Brown to approve, second by Smith. All ayes, motion carried. On October 30th, the mayor signed the lease.
Thank you. Amy Cooper? Oh, yes, let's answer your question before, let's answer James' question.
Okay.
Was that regarding the site walkthrough, who was present at that?
Pardon, I'm sorry.
The site walkthrough, you were asking who was present for that?
Yes, who did the site walkthroughs?
It was, I did not. I don't think any of the other board members did.
We were all invited if we could make it. I remember that. And that would have been the new site, the one at the town shop.
So nobody went on that site walk?
It was the old site at the.
That's where, so that's where you were
It was just
going.
me because nobody else could make it during that.
And did you go on that sidewalk?
I went with Curtis.
Okay. But nobody else went on that sidewalk. Tim, I can't see you because of that big old box. No, I didn't need to see you. So then, did anybody go on a sidewalk at the new site?
I did.
I did not.
Okay. Those are my two main questions, although I have more, but
Well, if there's time at the end, we can take those.
thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I want to.
I will say that it's interesting that I believe that you owe Jane at least 3 minutes for every meeting, that you didn't allow her to come and talk, because this kind of transparency, see this transparency right here, this 12-point font at the bottom of the page that was posted in front of the town hall, that's not transparency. You hid it. This was hidden from the people. We trusted you. Jane trusted you to make the best decisions possible for us. That's why we didn't feel the need to go to every board meeting and sit there and listen for 2 hours a night, because we trusted. This is not okay. This is what it's gonna look like. This is what it's gonna look like. Who's in the back? Nobody would want that in their front yard. It's rude and it's mean, and you betrayed her and you betrayed us. And since I can't yield my time, I had planned on not talking, but that's all I have to say about that.
Charlene Stevenson?
So first of all, I want to clarify that I started out with an 8-page document here. Nothing that I put in here is in reference to this is my research that I've done, and because of different things that's happened in this region, it's no longer to my mind. Does that make sense? So none of this is only to what I've done. Does that make
Can you speak up, please?
By golly, I am.
She is.
Here, maybe if I, can I come over here and
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
If,
You gotta stand in front of the camera, Charlene, though.
oh, well,
That's all right.
There you go. There you go, perfect.
Stand right here, that's absolutely fine.
do we have to do all of that? I am from somewhere.
We have your name and address.
The topic of the 5G tower placement has generated considerable debate. As we go forward, the questions concerning transparency, community input, placement, safety, and potential health risk are reasonable issues that will be addressed by the community, the town board, tonight, I hope. And Paula, congratulations on your role as mayor, I guess. My words tonight will address the potential safety and health risk of a 5G tower. There is a litany of reports that explain 5G technology is not a health concern, but please hear me out. Research from the American Cancer Society and International Agency of Research on Cancer and the NIH and historical events, laws, and policies will be touched on. The International Agency on Research on Cancer classified 5G electric or EMFs as possible carcinogenic to humans in 2011, based on limited evidence in humans and sufficient evidence in animals. The NIH states that there is little concern, however, further studies are needed to be completed. The American Cancer Society has indicated that the current studies do not provide adequate evidence to support claims of safety or claims of danger. They note that existing safety guidelines established by both the FCC and other regulatory bodies limit radio frequency exposures to levels deemed safe based on available research. There is a lack of extensive research specifically analyzing the long-term health of 5G radiation. Now let's look at historical cases, and this is what's near and dear to my heart. There were communities where unwilling victims to the new technologies in government's control that led to innocent peoples being victims of government agencies and corporate needs. In the early 20th century, radium was hailed for its luminous properties, which made it an attractive option for watches and instrument manufacturers seeking to produce glowing dials. World War I caused a surge of demand for luminous products, which provided steady work for attractive wages for young women that referred to them as radium girls. These radium girls were instructed to use their lips to shape the brushes, and that process led them to ingest the radium. Factory management assured the workers that radium was safe and encouraged them to use it without protective wear. Many of these women developed severe issues, including radium jaw, radium sickness, and various forms of cancer. Their suffering was often dismissed by their employers, who perpetuated the myth of radium safety. When fighting for compensation, these victims of radiation poisoning had to fight against powerful industrial corporations and societal beliefs of a woman's role in society. Their legal battles revealed a broader implication of corporate negligence and the need for worker protection. The Fair Labor Standards Act and Occupational Safety and Health Act emerged out of these workers' suffering. As we look to the future, the story of the Radium Girl serves as a cautionary tale demonstrating the potential consequences of disregarding safety for the favor of profit. Uranium mining, and you're going to have to bear with me, folks. My dad was a victim of this. Uranium mining began in the southwest region during the mid-20th century, driven by demand of the nuclear energy and weapons. The initial boom led to, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Folks, we've got to use our heads when people tell us something is okay. And when you lead back to money, who's really driving the agenda? And I'm not saying that this tower is bad or good, but when I'm told that something is okay and I better listen to it, do your own research. John Reed?
I can't help decide it again.
Excuse me, one person wants decided to talk, who just came in.
When we are finished with the ones on the list, we'll open it up to those that came in late, okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
We all know technology is here to stay. We can't run away from it. But we do know that technology runs away from itself and advances so fast that they tell you it may be good for you. I feel we need to limit the exposure of people in this town, so if there's a different place that maybe not there at the top of town where it's close to the school where the kids are going to be exposed to it at that duration of time. As they say, technology, they tell you it's good for you until you find out that it's not, like Agent Orange. And it devastates people. 5G, 4G wasn't around long enough to even find out what it did. Now we've got 5G, and they're already working on 6 and 7G. You know, it's leapfrogging and stuff like that. There's not enough time to put it into testing stages to find out what the lasting effects are. Do we need it? We need it. We need the communication that will bring to this place. But I think maybe there's a better place that we can place it so we limit the exposure on your inhabitants.
Sharon Johansson?
Okay, I told my sister I wouldn't talk.
I don't need to.
Well, you can't yield your
I think
time.
they're gonna hear me.
So,
I just have several questions. What was the purpose of this? Or did the board feel that there wasn't enough coverage for our area? Was that one of the reasons that this even came to be? And has anyone looked or spoken to this company to find out how much it would cost to get out of this contract? And, because I'm really curious about that. And I'm curious about your town attorney, if he was all for this, or did he give you some idea of some negative things going forward with this tower? And so those are my 3 questions.
Anybody want to go first, or? The purpose, we didn't seek them out, they sought us out. So, they came before the board asking for a location to do it. That's what I recall. If anybody else has anything different than that, please add that.
No, but I do have one comment. It's not the town's business to pick and choose businesses as winners or losers, period. So if someone approaches us and they want, the town is to encourage business development, that's part of our mandate with people, is to bring in new business, bring in better tax revenues, supposedly make life better for everybody. Now, whether that happens or not is a good question, but it isn't the town's business to go out there and tell people what they can and can't not do on a business as far as doing favoritism. So that's where that stands. A local business, sure, we love to support local business, but that doesn't mean we, preclude other businesses coming in. It's not our business to do that. So that's my comment on that.
Anyone else? The second question was the cost to get out of the contract, correct? So, we did not have that data to us before the meeting today. We did hear from our attorney, that there's not a clause to get out of the contract, but we also reached out to Vertical Ridge, Powder River, they go by all these names, to find out from them what it would look like as far as possible relocation of the tower or getting out of the contract, what it would cost the town. Unfortunately, we didn't get the data before the meeting tonight, so we'll have that when it's available to us. And then the last question, if I wrote this down right, was the options given to us by the attorney?
By your town attorney.
Okay.
Was he aware of of everything, and did he agree with everything that you put in that contract?
He helped negotiate the contract, so.
And he agreed it was all wonderful.
And it was quite a few back and forth from the revisions that I went back through my own records, several revisions to that, suggestions, common practices such as that, so. Does the board have any other comments on those last 2 questions?
Just there's the town, there was a lot of back and forth on that last contract. And, I know some people consider it lousy, and perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. We weren't offered a better contract by another company that came in.
You talk louder.
We're
So
talking about.
anyway, we weren't offered any better terms by other companies that were looking, other siding companies, because these are siding companies. They aren't really they aren't T-Mobile, they're a siding company. They come in, they set up a site, then they deal with T-Mobile to get their money out of putting that tower in. They will deal with other companies too if they will come in and do it. It's not much different than I assume NNTC. I assume they have different companies' antennas on their antenna. So it's the same kind of thing. But we went back and forth multiple times with the attorney on that thing. And it was negotiated. There were clauses negotiated in and out by both parties. So yes, it was thoroughly reviewed by the town attorney. So that's what that's.
I think she was asking too about the intention of the business deal. Was it that it came about to make money for the town? It was like if they approached you and you thought it would be a good move to make money off of the tower?
It's, to some extent, the reality is it's not a huge amount of money. Let's face it.
How much?
Use whatever they can get. But it isn't a matter of we're just gonna bend over and say, hey, if you should just throw us some pennies, we'll be happy. I mean, that's not the case.
But I think her question was, why did you even want to approach it? wanted
We
to
didn't
make.
approach it, they approached us.
But it was a
you
business,
felt the
it was a
need.
business intention.
So, let's move through the comments, and once everybody that signed up to talk has had their opportunity, we can go back to some of these
Okay.
questions that you guys have in the audience, okay? So, I wanna make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak that signed up, and then we'll go with what time we have left. Sharon, were your questions all answered?
Not really. I disagree with Tim that this is a business. This is not a business. Okay, I'm done.
Miranda Fingal.
I thought it was further down the list. Can I make a suggestion? So I'm sent a request for a public meeting on January 28th, probably within a week after the whole cell tower discussion happened, and the intention with that was to get everyone in the room talking, because there was some upset for sure. So Jane personally, her reaction to hearing the news about the tower was pretty upsetting. And then people started to speculate about, why did this happen? Why didn't anyone know about it? And so I made the suggestion to have a public meeting, because I think the longer you go without talking, once you have a conflict, the longer people have to make assumptions, and then here we are. So I think no matter what happens tonight at this meeting, if we could just carry the intention of having a resolution, whether it's from personal beefs or whatever, or hopefully a compromise on something with the tower, to just keep that good intention in mind. When I get upset, my voice goes up 7 octaves, so yeah, I think the bottom line here is that it's a great community, so don't let this be another thing that fractures your friends and family. So I don't know if I have any questions. I'm a recovering museum director, and there's one issue that really stuck out for me, and of course I empathize with Jane's situation at being across from her home, and this is not really on the town for this, but maybe we could talk about going forward how the town responds to certain things. And one of those is that there's a state historic preservation officer designated for each state. And I believe the Colorado history is on the Front Range. And I know they were contacted, and they apparently sent an archaeologist out to scope out the site. We kind of learned about that later. But I used to receive requests from consultants through Verizon, usually, or AT&T, and receive reports and maps and things like that, asking if there was any information that these people should be aware of for proposed cell tower sites. It's a very well-established system. It's just a way that it works. And the state historic preservation officer has a duty to, if they don't know the answer, to contact the local historical society. And the Vertical Bridge is, I believe, the largest monopole company in the country, so they know. Colorado History knows. I'm sure they get these requests all the time. And then their response was that the Arapaho tribe had no knowledge of, any relevant history to that site in the area, which we of course know is bogus. So I would just say going forward, if there's any large construction, whatever, I don't know if it's another cell tower or what, but just to be maybe just more cognizant of that. And so, yeah, I guess it's not a question, but just a comment. And then whatever that leads to, just more, I think more community conversation with stuff like this going forward.
Transparency.
Thank you. Annie, yes.
Some of you may know that I'm electromagnetic sensitive. Years ago, I showed up at the phone company with a thermal burn on my face and neck. John and I had no idea what to do. I sort of intuitively felt that it was electromagnetic because I'd been out in the yard talking to my sister-in-law, watering the yard with a deck phone between my head and my ear. And I thought, you know what? So anyway, it's a long story. It was like a disaster in our life. A disaster you could not see for the effects, the economic effect it had on us. I was from pillar to post for 9 years. John looked it up on the internet and he found out the problem was I had a metal bridge in my mouth and that was making me into a battery. I'm electromagnetic sensitive from birth. My parents were camping at 11-mile reservoir, 500 miles from the first atomic blast. I must have had a bunch of gamma rays. When I was born, I was bald until I was 3 and a half. My grandmothers were putting salve on my head, trying to figure out how come I didn't have any hair. I couldn't learn as a kid under fluorescent lights, but who knows? My family was so distressed in other ways. How can you tell? I always knew as a young mother that when I went shopping in a grocery store, I'd feel yucky. And when I got out of fluorescent lights, I'd feel better. So there's a long history of that. But when the cell phone industry started, when it became ubiquitous in 1992, the FCC made regulations saying that no health issues can be brought against a cell tower once it's established. And the Homeland Security had passed laws saying that once the cell tower is up, it may not be removed for health concerns. Why would that happen? Because our military knew back in the 70s that Russia had used microwave radiation against our ambassadors in Moscow. And anyway, John figured it out. Of course, the doctors thought I was crazy. They just wanted to put me on antidepressants. I had to go spend months as far from a cell tower as possible to recover. So we finally found a dentist that would give me a resin denture, get the metal clips out of my mouth. So then it took another 5 years to detox the metal out of my blood, which is a long, slow process. I lived out at Van Coram, and then somebody decided, oh, let's put a 5G out of town and route it over there. And I was just paranoid as hell, angry at my neighbors. Nobody, you know, having an illness that nobody accepts makes you kind of a renegade. You know, you're like, I don't trust. So anyway, I joined this group, Cellular, I can't remember what they are, but this is the international appeal to stop 5G on Earth. There are 300,575 signatories from 218 countries and territories as of March 31st, 2025. I'm not going to read it all, but the amount of health effects from microwave radiation, which is what our cell phones are run under, is immense. And it's very hard to determine because every individual is different. We all mitigate radiation by our activities, by water, by outside influences. We're all different. And not only that, illnesses that are caused by radiation are very hard to pinpoint because, I mean, for me, I had thermal burn. It was very obvious. I was debrided, I couldn't see, I couldn't think. So, you know, now, of course, like everybody, I have a cell phone, and I was able to go back to work, and I was able to come and live in Nucla. I've had this property for 14 years. I rented it out for 14 years. Now I come here. Now, because I decided I was going to help some homeless people, I hadn't taken my son who's recovering. I sleep with John, and we have our bedroom down there is paneled with aluminum foam board so that I can sleep safely there.
And your time is.
What? Okay, so anyway, there are 20 pages of scientific studies on the health effects here in the back of this petition. And this petition has all of the things that are not, and I want to say one more thing, two more things. 5G is 20 times stronger than 4G. And the rate of childhood brain cancer since 1992 is up 300%. If you all want to look at this.
And here's your other 2 copies.
Okay, there's 3 copies here. If anybody wants to read.
In there.
First off, Annie, do you have any of that salve I can use for traffic growth?
I quit making this salve. I wanted to see if it would sell, and my golly, it all sold.
Dang it, I'll be first on the list.
Okay.
My family and I have been attending the town board meeting now for the last year and a half, and it was actually us that initiated the recall of our past mayor because of watching his inability to perform as mayor and to conduct a professional business manner for the town of Nucla, caused us to go ahead and do the recall, which we were successful in getting the recall ballot put out and a new mayor brought in place. And going around talking to all the citizens stuff that signed those petitions, we had over 128 signatures signed. And a lot of other people actually want to participate, but didn't want to actually hurt Galeet's feelings or anything by her seeing their name on the list. But in that time of attending the town board meetings, the tower has come up several times an issue. And we've done a lot of research on it, and 5G actually is non-ionized radiation that doesn't penetrate the human DNA body. My concern more is, rather than where the tower is, and what Danny's saying about the uptick in kids' cancer, is our kids having cell phones against them all the time. It's not the cell phone towers themselves, but the cell phones that the kids are carrying or the people are carrying themselves. We can sit here and point the fingers as far as what the town board may or may not have had. I know they didn't have bad intentions or anything for personal gain for this here. They're looking out for the best interest for the community to have cell phone coverage. And I think one company in town, that's not a good business model. You need competition. And whenever we have friends and family that come in, the cell phone towers system here wasn't suffice enough for a lot of our friends and family to actually have access. They'd have to go to Norwood or somewhere else to get that cell phone access. So I applaud them for at least opening it up to say, yeah, we need competition, but we need better coverage. And in the town board meetings, actually 3 board meetings ago, there was a citizen that actually brought up the issue about Nucla being proud of having the first flagpole at the north end of town, and other communities wanting to copy that. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to sit there and browbeat anybody else, but I'm looking for a resolution. And I don't know if you guys go to Grand Junction at all, but Home Depot has a flag tower, cell phone tower, that they installed, I believe back in 2007. They had a huge flag running on it for about 3 years till it got tattered. They took it down. Our resolution would be, why don't we collect signatures on a petition to go back to T-Mobile and say, hey, we want a flagpole up there at the north end. We want a 100-foot flagpole. We want a 30 by 50-foot flag on there. If you'll pay for the first flag, then the town will go ahead and pay for supplemental repairs or replacements. Let's make this a positive, because no matter where we put the cell phone tower around the area, each one of us, each one of our kids are still going to be carrying a cell phone in our pockets or against our face. It's still going to be emitting the same non-ionized radiation that is a big concern to all of us. And so I'm actually in the back there. This is the cell phone tower that's in Home Depot in Grand Junction. That's what it looks like as of today. They had a flag, and this is actually in other communities now. They've actually proposed to have a flag pole made out of it. You can't see the cell phone antennas. They're actually hidden inside of it. And I think in support with what Jane was always talking about, Nucla being proud of the first flagpole, why don't we just propose T-Mobile make it into a flagpole? Put a flag up there, be patriotic about it. Because I know no matter where we put the cell phone tower, it's still not gonna have the effect that all of us desire to, for us to have cancer. I'm 5 generations from here, I'm 4 generations from Moab. All my family from Moab has died of cancer. I don't take cancer lightly, but we have to deal with what's before us. And let's all of us throw our cell phones away. Let's just see what we can make out of the positive this year and see if we can collect enough names on a signature or petition to have T-Mobile consider about making this a flagpole for us with cell towers hidden inside. So, thank you.
Okay, so we went through everyone that was on the list, so if you don't mind stating your name and
Okay.
address, just because I don't have it on here.
All right, I live on 665 Juniper. My name is Chris Eilertson, that's E-I-L-E-R-T-S-E-N. And I've been here about 10 years. But before I came here, I owned a cell tower. I didn't really have it put up. I bought the property with the cell phone tower already on it. AT&T had negotiated with the prior owner who died in destitute because he didn't have the money to pay the taxes on the 10 properties he sold AT&T tower space on. Now, I wanted to bring this point up to the town that unless it was negotiated that this cell phone company paid the taxes on the public utility that they are building, which in my case was $2,000 a year compared to $400 a year for the 7 acres it was on, and only a half acre was on the cell phone tower, but the property taxes were $2,000 a year for the half acre. And unless everybody in this town wants to pay a portion of that, something needs to be either renegotiated or something for that. And on the second hand, I completely understand Annie's issue. I've seen her turn brilliantly red when a cell phone comes near her. And it's not a joke. It affects everybody to a small extent, but to a large extent, you shouldn't be within 600 feet of one. And that I got from AT&T that built it. Now, they negotiated the same with him. They gave him $100,000 for each of his 10 properties used for a half acre to develop 100 to 150 cell phone tower with guy wires, because at that height they required it. They required a 5 to 10 acre property to do that. But he went broke and died because he could not maintain the tax on the properties anymore. So I wanted to bring that up to everybody, because everybody in this town pays taxes. But the town has assumed the responsibility for this property by letting the cell phone company use it for, what was the term of the contract?
8 years.
50 years. Well, AT&T had it in perpetuity, so it didn't matter. It was forever. And no renegotiation. Did they have health insurance for anybody that was injured or damaged by the cell phone tower?
You asked the question again, I'm sorry.
I said, did they have any health insurance available for anyone that might have been damaged or injured either on or by the cell phone tower?
I know that without looking here on the insurance part of it.
Those are primary things to protect the citizens of this town at a minimum. And I don't know how much money you got up front, but like I say, my guy got $100 grand for each one of them. That's $1 million. But it wasn't enough to cover the taxes over his lifetime. So it's something that the whole town is actually being confronted with. Now, luckily, I'm not as sensitive as Annie, but I'll tell you what, I'd be fighting tooth and nail if I was, and I don't blame her for being upset and trying to tell everybody else what happened to her. And the fact that we all want this, everybody wants good phone service. I understand that. But there's a lot of things that people don't understand and aren't told prior to signing the contract. Like, this is the first I've heard of it today. Well, today. Not when I walked in the door, but somebody told me to come to this meeting. Because I had owned a cell phone tower. And boy, those are ironclad contracts. They're not easy to deal with. Especially if they've been there. But if this happens before, they should be required to pay their own taxes on the buildings and anything they put in. And they should also be required to provide some type of health insurance in case of injury. I just see that as a mandatory thing that the town should vote on and demand if they're going to take on this responsibility. It's a great idea to have it look like a flagpole. I hate the way the other ones look. But that doesn't do anything to protect you.
Chris, your time is just.
I'm good. I'm good. But I wanted to make sure that you got that tidbit of information from somebody that actually has owned a cell phone tower. And it was not fun and not easy to get rid of. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there others that? Here's a hand up. John, I'm gonna come back to you. Okay, did you? Yeah. Chris?
I just have 3 questions, and this is not trying to point fingers at anybody, and I had to write them down and I forget them, because I'm old. Why was the site location changed and who changed it? Why does the proposed tower have to be so much higher than the one already on that site? And will it overpower the current tower or adversely affect its operational effectiveness? And lastly, in retrospect, do you think it would have made a difference in the board's decision if there had been public meetings prior to contracting? That's all I want to know.
Great questions.
Okay, so the first one was the site location change.
Yeah, why was it changed and who changed it?
Well, we as a board discussed the site locations and obviously were instrumental in the changes.
Was there a reason for it?
Well, for myself personally, I am not really a fan of cell phone towers at all. But when I make decisions sitting in this seat, it's not my personal opinion. To me, it's more what is best for all of our citizens in this community for public benefit. I was not crazy about the first site being at the Ben Range in that area up there, the brush dump. So we did discuss a couple other sites. One of them was out at the water treatment facility, and the other one was the current site that was that they chose, I should say. So they looked at all of those different sites and didn't care for the water treatment plant facility site for whatever their reasons were, didn't meet their needs. And so then that left us with the third choice of where we are now.
And then part of that too, if I recall, the brush dump, we spoke about it, we all kind of, I remember talking about probably my first people shooting at it, because that's a great target. And then so we thought of the water treatment plant, and then we talked about the one that they chose, which already has a tower on it, so it would be a location that there's already a tower at. So it wouldn't be something new. It might be bigger, but it's not new. That was what I recall of our decision as well.
Well, even the brush dump's not out of someone else's view. I mean, it's someone's affected here, someone's affected there. Someone's affected every place you put it, except for the possibility, and this was discussed long ago, was putting it up on the Midway tank, and that would have been Mustang Water's issue. Unfortunately, the county shot us down. They said the airport manager was dead set against it for, I thought, rather frivolous reasons, but the county commissioners voted not to let us do that. It is county property, Midway tank. We have it under lease as far as Mustang Water goes. brush dump goes, like I said, it's gonna be in somebody else's line of sight up there too, and so 6 of one, half a dozen of the other as far as that goes. Personally, if I could get it up at Midway, that would be my choice. And I personally don't care if we have another cell tower. But, that being said, we're here now, and we're talking about this. It may not be possible to do anything about it, but, that's what we're to discuss, so.
And I just, Tim brought up the point, regarding the Midway tank. I have a letter here that anybody's welcome to come read if they want. This is clear back on January 21st of 2022 from Montrose Regional Airport, Montrose County. And the reasons are stated on here, as to why they would not allow that to happen there. And that wasn't gonna be a tower, correct, Tim? That was gonna be something on top of the tank.
Antennas mounted
So,
on the tank, so it met FAA requirements. Quite frankly, like I said, I thought the reasoning was more just based on the airport manager's preferences rather than any real issue. I mean, there are, as in anything, there are debates about 5G effects on aviation, electronics and whatnot, so there's probably would have been some comments on that, I'm sure. My brother is not happy, he's a surveyor, and that, as far as he's concerned, 5G may disrupt his GPS stuff, so there are lots of reasons not to do it, there are some reasons to do it, so, like I said, we're here now to discuss it, and people are bringing up these issues, so, we'll carry on.
Chris, what was your last, so much longer than the other one? I believe it, isn't it a 100-foot tower, but it's gonna be on a 50-foot kind of pedestal thing, or what?
it's 100 feet total.
Total, not 150?
That's 100 feet above ground.
100 feet above ground. 100 feet from ground surface, it's 100 feet.
On top of the hill.
On top of a hill that's about 50 feet tall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look at the water treatment plant facility, it isn't just elevation. From there, they run their metrics on whatever they have for, interference on the broadcast, so it isn't just about elevation. But, I mean, quite frankly, they spent some time after we said we prefer to someplace else, looking at whether the location at the top of town there would be even suitable, so they ran their calcs and they said, okay, but that is what it is.
Well, Chris, do you have one more question, correct?
Yeah,
The third one.
retrospectively, looking back, would it have made any difference in your decisions if you had had public meetings regarding this prior to the decision to sign a contract? I mean, outside of regular board meetings, having special meetings like this for that specific purpose.
Sure. Why wouldn't
I
it?
was gonna say, I believe so. For me, personally, that probably would have.
Now, whether that would have meant we decided differently or not is another question, but it may have. And quite frankly, it depends on feedback from everybody. It isn't just, I mean, let's face it, most of the time when you have public meetings, people who show up are people who are motivated one way or another. You generally, if people are in support of something, they just really don't show up. Unless it's something really major. But, yeah, that being said, yes, it always matters as far as what the public has to say about the issues, so.
Actually, you know, in this area, 6 o'clock evening meetings is pretty early for a lot of people who are coming in either from Telluride or Montrose or Moab or somewhere. They don't even get home until 7. So it's not difficult for people to attend meetings.
I don't think anybody can say that we did adequate or enough public outreach on this. I mean, I don't, obviously, that's why you're here with a public meeting, even though it's kind of a day late and another short, but it is, you know, obviously it's some attempt to make amends for a lack of public outreach.
Yeah, I'm not trying to point fingers, I'm just trying to get a feel
I
for
think it's fine to point
what
fingers.
the sentiment was or the thoughts behind everything.
So we answered all three of yours, correct? One minute, Annie, I'm gonna see if there's anyone else that hasn't spoke yet before we come back around. Jen?
Hi.
Do you mind stating your name and your address?
Jennifer Nelson, and my address is 370 East Fifth Avenue.
Thank you.
And I just have
couple of questions, I guess. I'm still unclear about, I guess, when Jane told me, when I ran into Jane at the post office and she told me this was information that she had just discovered, I was shocked and sort of disappointed, and so now, just coming to this meeting, I'm unclear about if this is a done deal, or if this is something that all of you could make a different decision about. My compass points toward the kids. And so when I heard that there's going to be a large cell phone tower put up where my kid and all of our children go to school for 162 days out of the year, I felt extremely concerned to the point, and we already have several cell phone towers in town that seem to work well, and I don't think people who visit this community come here, you hear, like, I love coming here because it's quiet, because the history is interesting, because I can ride my bike and see elk, because I can on and on and on and on. And so I'm not sure that the people that are moving here, that are coming here, we're kind of too far away from a Walmart. For people to move here or to be here visiting, who have their compass point in a direction that needs extremely good cell phone service. And so I'm just unclear. I guess I have a lot of gratitude and respect for all of you who do amazing things. Our park is beautiful. You make, beautiful flower pots for our community. David's family provides wrestling for our kids, and good food. So I just am really confused and concerned, and I'm unclear. I guess my question is this a done deal? Or is there an option to say, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. We know there are a few members of the community here who have similar concerns. So I guess that's, moving forward, that's my main question is, where you are with that. So what we know as of this today, we had some advice from our attorney regarding the contract that's already been executed, that there's not a cancellation clause in that. So we, I stated earlier, we've reached out to Vertical Bridge to find out what it would cost to get out of the contract potentially versus relocation of the site potentially. We did not hear back from them before the meeting tonight. So we don't have that information yet to move forward with. Okay. Well, I guess my concern is, big companies, just what you said, they came to us. Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Great. And they know that I don't know, none of us can know what your motivations were, or, it really doesn't matter at this point, what matters is going forward and really thinking about, is this what's best for our community, for the people we love, for our kids, is it what we need, does the town, moving forward, big tech companies are gonna get back to you, sure, sign here and we'll cancel the deal because they're giving you, the town, I guess, a minimal fee for, erecting a big tower right in the center of the community, so it doesn't surprise me, I guess, that they didn't get back to you. So I guess I want to say from one member of the community who's lived in this area for 20 years that, I would support a different decision, and I think there's a lot of people in this room that would, and I just want to state that for the community and specifically for our kids. So thanks for hearing me out. Thank you.
So is it a done deal? It depends on how much blood we want to spend to get rid of it, is what it probably comes down to. Because they're not, I mean, they're a big outfit. They can probably pass on it, but they're gonna negotiate tough. They're not gonna give up they're not just gonna walk away. So it's hard to say, and I guess we'll hear more on that one way or another.
Yeah, I guess I would ask, somebody said this to me a long time ago, don't give up your power, that we have this place that's incredible. And I really think that,
What
a
I
big
wasn't-
tower on the top of town is
What
definitely.
wasn't questioned, I have lots of
Yeah.
people who complain to me about cell coverage.
Yeah.
Lots of people, and I have lots of visitors who complain about it. And yes, so is it something needed? I don't know. Can NMTC fill that gap that they haven't in the past? I don't know. They don't tell us. So, I guess maybe there's a bit more discussion relevant to all the local companies at the same time. If you are worried about competition coming in, and you have to step up and fill that gap so that the competition doesn't have anywhere to be. So,
Yeah, we're kind of at a point in history where we have to make those decisions carefully, right? Moving forward, because it isn't going to. You're right, no, the next person will come in, you know, so I guess as a community and as a town board, I'll just ask that you know, have that conversation with the community. So thank you.
Annie, go ahead, and then I'll.
I was in contact with another group in California that was fighting the erection of the cell tower. And they found that, no, you cannot bring a legal, a charge against the cell tower for health reasons, but you can the people who own the property. And in that case, that was enough to stop it in this small community in California. And the other thing I have to say is that Nucla was founded on people who wanted to create a self-sufficient community that was not dependent on big corporate money. And the world is changing really fast, and new understanding of things are emerging all the time. And a big cell tower is already probably obsolete, so why should we have it?
Carla, I think, we can't hardly see you. Carla, will you? Just give us, your address if you would, so I can write you on the list here.
28 Western Road. You need the full address? I live on 28 Timber.
Okay, sorry.
I guess when a company approaches the town, did you guys feel obligated that you had to give them an answer? You know, because you could have said no, and then they could have approached somebody else that's out on Third Park away from people. I am disappointed, and I do live nearby. And one of the reasons I'm disappointed the most is because of the population that this could affect. You may only count the houses and the residences around, but the school is right there, just like Jen said. And it does worry me, and I have researched this also, and I know what Jimmy was saying is all over the internet, but that's not digging deep enough. There are cases where it does cause cancer, and so is the town willing to take the risk? You know, and it's not you all that's sitting there that's gonna affect, and that's the problem. You know, you have your West End vision, West End economic development, all those things to make this area better. The phone, you know, a tower in a town is not necessarily what makes the town better. And I have hunters that come and stay at our property, and yeah, some of them have Sprint, some of them have AT&T, some of them have Verizon, some of them don't get service, some of them do, and anytime they complain, I hand them my NNTC phone. And I think, you know, I disagree with the comment about NNTC or just being the one company, you know, that offers the services. They've been here for generations, and I feel like, you know, everybody probably sitting up there at that table at one point or another says, you know, buy from us locally, help us locally. And we should have looked at them and helped them locally. Or asked them, you know, what's your suggestions on this? And I don't know if you all did, I'm not being accusive, but we need to support our local people. And so that's another reason I'm really disappointed. You know, you may not, I pay a lot of money for my cell phone, probably more than anybody that has AT&T and Verizon. I get it. You know, we're up to $300 a month on cell phone service right now between internet and cell phone, and it's a lot. but it's worth it, because those are the people that are here, and they pay taxes to you all. And this big company doesn't. And so that's, a problem in my eyes. And so I wish that there would have been, more discussion, more thought. I know I'm not annexed into the town, but I'm a stone's throw away from that. I just choose not to be. But, I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just for the record myself, regarding you living in town, I consider anybody with the 81424 zip code a Nucla. So anybody that lives outside the city limits, come and talk to us at any time too, because it does matter what everybody has to say.
Yes, that's, okay, I have a gentleman over here that hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah, Jim Walmer, 233 East Fifth in Nucla. There's a lot of things that I'd like to comment on, but I'll try to limit it. People want us to believe the technology is all for the better. And that's been talked about until we find out it's not. It's a myth that it's always for the best of everything. I won't talk about the health effects. I've had a number of friends who are chemically sensitive, electromagnetic sensitive. That is an issue. The kids at the school, it's the worst possible location. But does Nucla have, most municipalities I'm aware of, I know all the ones in this area, have some kind of provision in the town ordinance says, if you live within a certain distance, and a lot of them are 150 yards of the proposed, anything that would affect the properties within 150 yards, they have to be notified. We have property within 45 yards of that boundary. We have two properties actually. We were never notified. I don't think anybody was notified. I do wonder if there are people that live near the other sites that were proposed, were they notified? Is that part of it? But I think that's wrong. I think Vertical Bridge is a huge company that doesn't care about Nucla. They want to make money, and they're getting a sweet part of the deal. In fact, they're not even getting what we could get for a two-bedroom apartment rent. So I think the town needs to look at if something of that magnitude is going to affect health or property values. We got to have some kind of ordinance that says, people have to be notified. And I don't think anybody was notified.
Nobody was notified.
Great.
Which one? Okay, wait a minute. Would you mind stating your name, please?
My name's Tina Reed. I live at 37015 Highway 145 in Redville. I just wanted to make a comment that myself, my husband, our neighbors, our family, and friends just lost our bid to have the county deny the permit for Verizon in our neighborhood. They're putting 120 foot now, they gave us 30 feet. But they're gonna put 120 foot tower, 274 feet from my husband's garage. It's from our property line, from his shop. And these companies know what they're doing. They shot down everything that we thought would help us to get them to go away, and they found a reason to stay. They played the game. They played the game for following all of Montrose County's regulations or things that they required. And we were shot down. And it's right in the middle of 13 residences. There's plenty of room around there. Everybody knows where K-Way Corner is, right? It's gonna be right there. There's all kinds of land all around other different places that they could have put that tower. But they found one person that wanted the money. And they're not doing us any good. We don't need the tower there. We don't want the tower there, but there was nothing that we could do. We were not allowed to speak on any potential health problems that people might have as a result of this energy. So we had our hands tied. You know, we could talk about the property values going down, the aesthetic views, you know, messing up our views and that kind of stuff. You know, we didn't have anything.
Did your property values go down?
We don't know, they haven't put it up yet. But we have 1, 2, 3, I think 4 people that have their properties up for sale. And 2 of those I know for sure were for sale before this, we even found out about it.
I wouldn't buy it.
I would. I mean, I already did that, but yeah, you know, but they know what they're doing.
Yes.
And they're in it to make money, and, you know, we don't get anything, except a bunch of people. Yeah, we got a bunch of people gonna come in and out, heavy equipment, dust, traffic, you know, our deer are gonna go away, our hawks are gonna go away, our eagles are gonna go away, everything's gonna go away. And that's why we bought that property. You know, and we're out of gas, so, you know, I think that you guys are our first defense against this kind of thing. You need to have some things in place that, no, you can't have it within a certain amount of distance from this, that, you know, the other. The school is, you know, that's not good, but that's my personal opinion. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of let you know what we went through. We were afforded, you know, several public meetings and things to voice our opinions and our concerns and things, but it didn't seem to help, so, you know, it's just kind of disappointing. Because they're trying to come in and run all over us and, you know, do what they want to do. This is our place. This is where we live, work, and play. We have a right. They're telling us they have rights to go anywhere that they want. Well, what about our rights? We have rights too. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of that comes down to the fact that the county couldn't prohibit it from being going in on private property, was my understanding.
I can't hear you, sir.
Well, from my understanding, a lot of that came down to the county couldn't prohibit it because it was going in on private property, otherwise they probably would. Now maybe there's potential here because it's going in on public ground. I don't know. I will look at that harder, obviously. I mean, there's enough pushback in my opinion. I don't know what about the rest of the board, but in my opinion, there's enough pushback for us to take a harder look at this and see if there's reason to get out of it. But it is, you know, you can't just say, I don't want it, and it doesn't happen. The FCC actually has laws against, now, we as a public entity may be able to, but the FCC actually has laws prohibiting the denial of cell towers being put in. So, you know, that's federal law, and that's why your property, that's why you're getting stuck with one.
And there is a fact sheet on what you just mentioned too, from the FCC regarding our inability to prohibit some of this, so there's some of those back there. Is that right? We have copies if you want to see them. Annie, I'm skipping around you because there's more people here that haven't spoke yet, and I'll come back to you again, okay? So, I don't know your name, ma'am.
My name is Cynthia Zem, and I live at 39548 Highway 145, which is in the Redville. It's in Montrose County. I am with this woman here, the Redville Tower, and I just want to say to all of you, I'm up here speaking from my heart. Stand up for your rights. I went to that meeting where the representative from Verizon was saying, Verizon has a right. And my husband and I were involved with Tri-State, and they wanted a deeded easement for our property to work on their power line. And for 20 years we said, no, we don't want one. We gave them a construction easement, an easement to work on it if there was a problem. And about 5 years ago, they called us up and they said, well, we're going to shove this down your throat. So we got an attorney at tens of thousands of dollars, and we finally did come up with agreement in 2023. And they have a deeded easement across our property. And I just know that when I heard about this Red Bell cell tower on that corner, it was like a stab in my heart. And I went to the meeting and, you know, saw the whole thing happen. And everyone in the room was against the tower. And eventually, the second meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend approval. And the county commissioners just recently approved it. And it's, there's a pair of bald eagles there, there's a nest that's within a mile of this tower. The eagles hang out between mile marker 105, mile marker 105, I'm at 104, I'm at 105, and they're all the way to 112, and the Red Bell Tower is right in the middle of it. It's right by the highway. It's in the middle of the residential area. And they didn't care about what the people wanted. And I'm just saying to you people, you have a board here that appears to care about people here. And it's just really important to stand up and stand up for your rights. And I don't know if there's anything we can do about that tower, but I'm not just gonna stand down and go and talk to the commissioners and see if there is anything possible where they could move it. But I want to wish everyone good luck, and I want to thank you guys for having these meetings. We had, the first meeting I went to, there was going to be a follow-up meeting, and one of the county commissioners died. And so they postponed the meeting, and I never heard about another follow-up meeting, and I just found out yesterday that it was, that it had passed. So I hope you guys are gonna enjoy that tower when you're driving, because it's gonna be right in the middle of your commute. But stand up for your rights. Thank you.
Tracy? I'm Tracy Bell, and I live by Commonwealth. So, Paula, did you say that someone didn't reply back regarding the location? I may have misunderstood, but I feel that those who made decisions for the location were just thrown under the bus, because they're not here to defend their position. So I'm curious, and I would imagine many others, that the locations need to be revisited.
What I mentioned was that we had reached out to them to see if there was a possibility to relocate it to a different, and we haven't heard back yet. So.
And that was recently.
And that was recently that we requested that.
And so is there a time frame that your decision has to be made? Are we waiting for whomever's going to call back to call back?
The contract has already been signed and executed, so at this point, we're backtracking.
How could they do that without the town being aware?
No, we signed the contract with them. We executed the contract. This board approved the tower location and the contract in October of last year.
And the town is liable for any damages, or are they paying liability insurance?
There's insurance in the contract there, and your question earlier about the tax stuff, we're tax exempt as a government entity, so, there, you know, property taxes you were discussing, we don't have that as a government entity. Tracy, I didn't want to cut you off, so were you?
So we're waiting, and who are we waiting to hear from?
The contractor from the vertical bridge is the name of the company, or what's the other name? Powder River, they have all these names I can't keep straight, but it's the people that would be building the tower. Thank you. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure she was that.
Is this the same company that contracted at the Redfield Tower? Are they?
I don't
No.
think so.
No, they're different.
That's
Totally
right.
different.
Oh.
This is Vertical Bridge and,
Oh,
T-Mobile.
Oh, okay.
It was
Why
Atlas
weren't you
Tower,
allowed to
Atlas
talk
Tower and Verizon.
Why weren't you allowed to talk about health, problems?
Because of the telecommunications law that was signed in 1995. And then there's a Homeland Security that had something to do with that.
Candace Tomlinson, 480 East 4th in Nucla. I just wanted to know if this amount of payment that you're getting on a monthly basis is similar to what other people get when they do their own private property, or when other government entities allow this to happen. Is this the same amount of money that they get?
I can't answer that question. Does anybody else know if it's the same amount?
I do know that other companies offered us for different locations. It was more of it was based on some other things, but it wasn't enough to be what you consider worthwhile. Nobody should do it.
And do you have plans for this money, how you're gonna spend it already?
The dog park.
So it wasn't enough money to affect anything that you already had set up or planned, or?
No. Miranda, were you done? I'm sorry. Okay, Miranda.
Want to kind of talk about what progress they have made to give a sense of how far along are they? They've done soil testing. Have they done any actual construction at that site yet, or so they're not in too deep as far as their expense goes?
They've done some geotechnical soil samples and whatnot, and some surveying and some other things like that, but nothing has been constructed.
I don't know what the quantity is. I heard a rumor it was 50 grand. I don't know if that's true or not.
That's what I was told by Melissa, that they've already put $50,000 into it.
Yeah, that probably includes all the lawyer fees, everything else. That probably includes all the wax since day one for what they've been.
A lot cheaper than one claim would be.
I like the flagpole idea. Obviously, the location is up for debate, but aesthetically, if it can't be moved, and if they're in too deep, or if the town's in too far to pull out, I don't know, those two things, I think should be discussed as a compromise.
Town's never too far in to pull out. The question is, how much do you want to pay it?
And I wonder the corporations never like public uproar. And so if we're backed by a petition, could that affect their response to, the town saying, we want to explore a different location or back out of the contract? Does that hold any sway as far as them sinking any teeth into putting the town on the hook financially?
I think it does. I think it's very worthwhile to circulate a petition. A citizen's petition has always had merit, whether it's to influence us or to influence the company. I would throw out the same fact for influence the county, so that we could actually perhaps move the thing up onto Midway 10, because the county is stonewalling us the same way, and you've got different commissioners now, so the possibility may exist to do something different there. But citizens petition never carries no weight.
I think all the topics on a petition that are concerned to people, historical value, health reasons, everything has been brought up. I think it would be a good thing to put on the petition that people sign.
But when you recommended that I do a petition, you did say that it would only be able, that you would go through the list, and it would only be town of Nucla people that would be able to be counted.
It shouldn't be. I live very close to where that thing's gonna be, I'll put my name on it.
But that,
So is that correct? Is what she's saying correct? You would only consider a petition if citizens of the town of Nucla
it was
signed
said
it?
at the meeting. You could go back and listen. It was Tim.
Oh, Tim?
And you all agreed that,
Usually a petition, you know, that I've signed will have your name, and you have to put your address on it, so I don't know if Tim knows something I don't know, but I don't know why that would.
well, I would think that school parents of kids that are in school should be able to sign it, and I just,
I think as long as they're, I mean, don't you think adults that are of voting age, you know, so parents sign a petition, that's a legal thing, yeah, so.
I just don't want to be the mad woman that goes to everybody's door to have them sign my damn petition. It should have been signed. It should have been, we should have had the opportunity to do it back in May.
And the public meeting should have been in May. They should have started then. It shouldn't have waited this long. This is terrible. This is not transparency, you guys. You should have had this. You put everything else on your webpage, Melissa. Why wasn't any of this on the webpage for everyone?
We're not gonna do this yelling at each other.
Why are you not putting your board meetings on the webpage?
Well,
the
there
public
were some
meeting?
changes that was made in the last few days as far as agendas being posted. We are working on this. We are working on making
Thank
changes
goodness.
to the website, so.
If I could just respond to one thing. I know that particular rule that you talk about, that the, just let me collect my thoughts.
The FCC.
The FCC rule that the town cannot say no, and the county cannot say no. So I've done a lot of research. There is a website, anticelltowerlawyers.com. A lot of good information on there. Of course, it's coming from a lawyer that fights cell towers. But do property owners have a right to oppose the approval of cell tower applications, is the question. Absolutely. Aside from your rights under state law to be heard at public hearings, you also have a right to submit opposition to cell tower applications under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guarantees your right to petition government for the redress of grievances. Under this guarantee, you have a U.S. constitutional right to be heard before town boards, planning boards, and zoning boards, and to make submissions to oppose any cell tower application. In exercising such state and federal rights, you have the right to fight against sustaining a loss to the value of your property as a result of the installation of a cell tower in close proximity to your property. You can exercise these rights to protect yourself, your family, your friends, and your neighbors against the dangers of cell tower collapse, and to fight against having the installation of a cell tower which would adversely affect the character or the aesthetics of your neighborhood. You have the right to assert all factual grounds upon which a respective application should be denied. So this law being used to say that you have no rights as a local town board to say no, I believe it would not stand up in court. You have every right to say no, just like I have every right to say no. I don't want that directly across the street from my property, 120 steps from my front door, without anybody letting me know that it was going to happen. And any one of you, if you didn't want to put it in big print on your flyer, if you didn't want to hang it around town, if you don't have to put it on your webpage, if you don't have to put it on your Facebook page, and you don't have to put it on the newspaper, any one of you know all of us, and you could have said, you might want to come to this meeting. We're talking about a cell tower. The thing is, on that May 8th meeting, it was still going to be at the brush pile. You all changed it. You did it that night. The whole process should have started over May 9th, and it didn't. And I believe that there's a case there. And I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of being sad. I didn't ask for this. The only way I found out is I saw the geophysical people doing their work across the street from my house, and I asked. I had to text you personally, Paula, and say, what are you building over there? Because at the meeting that I was at on Tuesday night, you were building a bridge. You could go back and listen. You could go back and listen to that meeting. You never once mentioned cell tower. It was not mentioned. I'm tired of being angry. I don't want to be angry at you. I don't believe that anybody on this board did this with malicious intent. I don't believe it. I believe maybe you didn't think through it. Maybe you didn't study that contract as much as you should. Maybe your lawyer sitting over in Denver or wherever he is sitting didn't understand the complexities of our community. Maybe he would have given you different advice if he was from a small town or if he knew where our town even is. I don't believe that it was intentional, and I don't believe that it was malicious. So do
resolution?
I don't know. Do I put my property on the market now? Do I do like the people in
Stop
Red
yelling at her.
Oh, shut up, Dawn. She can handle it. She's the mayor.
Okay, we're done. Yeah, okay, everyone relax, keep it professional.
Have some respect and stop yelling at them up there.
I am. I am. That's what I've become. Is the angry old woman at the top of the hill.
Try to, the whole purpose of this conversation, whether we didn't do right at the beginning, we've been hearing consistently for a few months now that we're stupid, we screwed up, everything we've done.
We're liars.
We're liars, we're bad people. Okay, well, we've sat through that, we've listened to it many times. I don't believe that we are those bad people. But what I asked in the beginning of this meeting was if anybody came with some solutions, possibly, to where we are. And so far, I've heard a solution of a flagpole. I don't know, but
It's not a solution. It's not a
I'm not saying it is, but it's something different than we've heard anyplace else. You know what? Just a minute, and I will call on you. I will. I just wonder, how do we find resolution?
I don't know. I don't know, Paula. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
But we're not any further ahead than we were at the first meeting.
But
And
at
so
least,
that's why
at
I'm
least
asking.
you heard it from other people besides me.
Yes,
Because I'm the only one that you've heard from.
And I'm gonna say this, which is not gonna be popular at all, and the rest of the board, I have no idea who they've talked to. But as many people that oppose this, there is as many people that are in favor of it, and equally as many people that have no skin in the game and are neutral. And I did my little survey, I provided it for you guys to take a look at, there's a copy back there, but I've also talked to a ton of people, and that's the question I'm asking of them. What's your thoughts on this cell tower? I assume some of these other board members have done the same, I can't speak for them. But it's not an easy draw the line, the majority is for it, the majority is against it. And so when we sit in this chair, to me, we have to take into consideration everybody, not just the ones that are sitting in front of us. So that's tough, Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blather on.
I do want to clarify one thing though. I didn't say the town couldn't oppose based on the FCC regs, because quite frankly, the town's a different entity than a private person.
Right.
So.
Right, absolutely.
So then that's the purpose of talking to the lawyer and getting back and forth with the lawyer. The lawyer obviously reviewed the contract. The lawyer didn't make recommendations on whether you should do this or not. He wasn't asked that question. He was asked the question of, is this contract valid? Is it something that the town, is it out of bounds in any way, shape, or form? And that's where the negotiation went on that. So, I we can't, the lawyer wasn't called upon to make a judgment call on whether it was a good idea or not.
Clear the back.
Eric Johansson, 619 Main Street. I was just wondering about the design of the tower, the footprint, and then what's going to be the usage of that property afterwards. We had designed a park, I believe like 12 years ago. Maybe 15 years ago, we did the library landscape, planting all edible medicinal landscape at the library, which has really come along nicely. It's a beautiful public space, but we also designed one with Paula and the Garden Club for that space as a town resource or town-owned property. And the intention that they want to do is put a bathroom up there and then have a walking path to the top of the hill, have like a gazebo or a grape arbor at the top, use it as a public space to view the mountains, to have weddings, possibly like music venue, things like that. We had talked about using the ditch water and putting historical a flume through put the water through the flume through the park there, and it was supposed to be a useful space to the public. I drove up there before I came down here. I think it's one of the most beautiful spaces that we have. You can walk around by the shop and look at the LaSalles, you can see all the San Juans, you can see the entire Uncle Padre Plateau. It just seems like a really valuable space that's owned by the town. So I'm wondering about like how can we still use that space? What is the footprint of the tower? How close can we go to it? How can we still be in our town space after this is installed?
We actually have a site drawing, and I have if you'd like to see what they provided here, I'll find it here in just a second, you can look at it. I want to just add a little bit to what Eric said. The Garden Club, and I believe Penny and Chris, and I don't know if we have any other Garden Club members here, we did write a grant and contracted with Eric and a team to put together a design for that area up there, for what's now called Volunteer Park. It has been a number of years ago. The design was done, and after that it was a matter of funding to implement it and the partnership with the town, none of which any of these people, including myself, were on the board during that time. So when we went to the board and asked them about this collaboration and this design to improve that area, the board at the time said yes, we'd work with you, we'll figure out a way to get some grants and make it happen. And then of course by the time that the plan was done and we're ready to implement it, the board has changed in the point of view as far as, you know, any capital or a partnership in gaining those funds was not there at that time. So I appreciate the fact that you brought it up because it's a beautiful design. Whether or not that could coordinate with a tower being in that space, I don't have any thought about that, but you know, it's possible, I guess. Could still be used, you know.
Okay, is there setbacks for how close people will be allowed to go to the tower?
Supposed to have a fence around the entire area.
6-foot fence with 3 strands of barbed wire,
How far?
4,500 square feet, 60 by 75.
Yeah, almost that big. So the whole, like, top of the design space will be fenced in the tower now?
Yeah.
It doesn't
take you if you fall.
I think here's a little map if you want to take a look at it. From my recollection of the design that you guys created, I don't believe that it went that far back to where this is proposed, but I don't have the other one here to compare that to, so the design plan.
I have it if anybody wants to look at it. I have it on 11 by 17 paper, so
But
it's
do you
pretty
have
easy
the-
to see.
Do you have the park design that he created?
Oh, no, not the
That's what I
park
was
design.
talking about.
I'm sorry, no, I don't have that. I didn't know there was one.
Yes.
So essentially, it looks like it's the entire hilltop that encompasses the shop also?
It's above the shop.
So that space is
Gone.
will be not accessible to the public, correct?
No.
Oh, I have one quick question.
Oh, go ahead, Carla.
Just out of the name of transparency, when you guys hear back from the attorney or from the company, can you scan those in and put the letters back on your Facebook page so we can can all read them.
We're probably not gonna put them on Facebook yet. We're going through some stuff right now with the attorney as far as how we're gonna put information out to the public. And those type of letters that are coming from an entity like that, I don't see us using Facebook as that opportunity, but the board can decide that once they have the information. And I'm sure it will be discussed at whatever the next town board meeting is after we get that information, so.
So if it's, even if it's not on Facebook, can it be public information that we can read and see, you know, what their response was, how much it costs to buy out? If, you know,
I would think that we're gonna be discussing that based on what I'm hearing tonight, that we'll be discussing that information, so, yeah.
You might have to do a core request.
All the way to the back, sir.
If a petition, Jack Rendell, live in 30771 Highway 141. So if a petition is so effective, I know I signed the petition, the one in the Redville, and I know they went all over the place, but yet it still is being, they're gonna put the cell tower. So is it gonna be effective if we sign a petition?
Can't hurt.
Because it didn't work, obviously, in Redville.
Well, I mentioned a different situation, that it's privately owned property that, they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's still.
Chris, I'm sorry, I'm just waiting to see if he was done.
My main concern is for every person in the city of Nucla area, because if there is no liability insurance and there is one claim, it'll eat every penny of what you already got and plan to get, not to mention if there's more than one claim. And this is vital that I'm sure no one in this town wants to assume that liability. Thank you.
Yes. John?
Okay, I'm all about patriotism, flying the flag, okay? A lot of you know me, that's what is in my heart, okay? With food, with thought, okay? If you're talking about if this does go through and you wanna make that into a flagpole, that size of flagpole will need a 30 by 50 flag to even be able to make it look good, okay? We are a dark sky community, so it's gonna be needing a downward light on it. The lumens, just like that big of a flag up, is gonna be immense, okay? Now, if you put the town of Nucla on the hook to replace that flag once a year, and it will need to be replaced once a year, because the wind will be after. The cost of those flags, $1,500 to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. You can't afford to even fill potholes around here. So let's not put the town on the hook for replacing that flag.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I just want to add, you know, Paul and everybody, you're in a tough spot. You know, I don't envy you for taking on a new job with more division going on in the area as there already was. So that's unfortunate, and wish you all well. I know you're listening. I appreciate that you had this meeting. It had to happen. I don't know what the resolution is, whether, you know, you say that there's more people that might be supportive, it's not, and let, you know, the people that, a couple people here support it, kind of, and so I applaud them for speaking up. You know, it just seems like hopefully the town's gonna learn something from this, transparency, maybe some, look at their bylaws, look at all that stuff, that we might need, because it's a growing population, we hope, a little bit. We don't want Nucla to die. We do want to maintain and improve the quality of the aesthetics of the town and respect property rights as much as possible while improving the aesthetics. But hopefully the town can learn something. But I still think, you know, having one meeting is good. I would like to see somebody from Berkeley. I wonder what's in it for them. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a huge area that's going to make a huge amount of money. Would they pull out if they saw a lot of resistance? I don't know. But it might be nice if they came to a meeting and heard from the public directly. don't know if that's a possibility or not, but, I just think, I'd hate to just see, you know, one meeting is great and we all appreciate an opportunity to speak, and maybe there can be another one with more input, with some more input on about the contract. It's still vague. I think there's some good points made of what's the liability if we go through with it. You know? So anyway, that's all I have to say. Just appreciate you listening, but maybe there's more that can be done. And just let it drop.
Arlene?
Okay, so I live in the second part. Yeah. I think I'm the oldest one here, other than him. And just a point of interest, my husband Tom remembered when electricity came to his house. And he's only been gone 3 years. Pulled the chain and the lights came on. It was a big deal. So it's my generation. Electricity showed up. Everybody here, you don't realize how dependent you've been suckered into becoming so dependent on electricity. You ask how the tower doesn't belong to the phone company. They're leasing the use of it, correct? That's how it is in Redville. They can lease out to 4 or 5 more people can use the tower for money. It's a money maker for the tower, whoever is the money behind that name, which we don't know. The commissioners meeting, I went and talked to the tower guy, I forgot his name. And I said, so who all do you lease out to? I heard the FBI might be one of them, and he said, yes, we have. So it's the phone, the cell phone is kind of a bait for us to discuss. The tower is going to be leased to, we don't know who, and I don't think they have to tell. Is that right?
No, they don't. They don't have to get any permission from the town on who goes on there, and there's room for 3 more carriers.
So they can lease to China if they want to.
Yep.
So it's like there's a bigger picture than looking out and seeing a tower, which is crap. I don't blame her. But this is a lot more serious than just looking out your view and drinking your coffee. We need to be aware of what's really going on. And I think, except for him, I am the oldest one here.
Sure, Chris.
And from what I just heard, does the city maintain the ownership and lease it to the bridge company?
Yes.
And you don't have the right to lease that tower to anybody else? Or the bridge company has that right?
Right, correct.
See, I had to write it as an owner. I could have leased things on there. So they're messing with you. They really messed with you. I'm telling you, from experience with exactly what you're going through. They took advantage.
Charlene?
May I finish?
Yes, you may finish.
Okay, what I was just trying to say is, I'm gonna segue off a couple of people. So, in the uranium industry, they started to supply uranium, as you all know, for mostly nuclear weapons. And who was in those mines? People like my dad. He was uneducated, and that was good wages for him. Who else was in those mines? People from the Navajo reservation. They were the next big group. that was in those uranium mines. It took from 1940 to 1971 just to get ventilation policy put in and used. They did what they said, well, we're gonna make public health service, okay? They kept the study away from the miners. Why? Because some of them may not have chose to mine in those mines and quit. So they covered that up. Ventilation information was given about how it should be in the mines. My dad was in those mines at that time. But it wasn't required. Why? Why? Money, that's what yes. Then, finally, in 1959, mine operators were required that only held leases for procurement for the government. Then you had to have ventilation. But if you were in other mines, they didn't put ventilation in those mines. Then finally, by 1978, in 1971, standards were adopted and enforced. So we're talking 20 years that people were down in those mines. Our government paid $2.5 billion for about 39,000 workers and downwinders for lung cancer and other illnesses. My dad died of bone cell cancer. Did the government try to cover it up and say, oh, it wasn't from the mines? Yes, they did. It took a lot of work to have somebody be responsible. Anytime you talk about radon, don't sit there and tell me, I know the rate that what they're using does not change the cell structure and does not heat up the body. But there's a lot of other things that it can do. And it is right on the cusp on these 5Gs. And as I think Annie said, it's going up to 7Gs, 6Gs. We don't know. You have a 50-year contract, folks. What's going to happen at that 50 years? 50 years. There was no male in this community that was left. We didn't have grandmas or grandpas in this community. 50 years. What are we going to see in 50 years? I love the flagpole. Put it not on a cell tower. Put it someplace else. I'm all about that. I like what John said. So go forward. I think we all ought to show up at town meetings, see what the lawyer has said, what you folks can. I think we ought to address this and say, you know what? We are, as a community, willing. I don't blame you guys. I don't. Thank shit. Okay? But let's work our way out of it. Let's, as a community, pull together and go, what can we do? Thank you for having it brought to our attention. But now let's go forward with it. And, you know, if it has to go out to the county, let's push the county a little bit. It is their responsibility. We are part of the county. They shouldn't be able just to say no like that to us. Can it
If
still?
it's their property, yeah, they can say it.
No, it's not. How many of you pay Montrose County taxes in here?
Everybody.
It's not theirs.
Well,
It is
in
ours.
the sense that they can legally deny.
Yeah, well,
They don't want the liability.
That whole Montrose Airport thing.
and I can understand that, but maybe there's other county places that we can, let's put our heads together and see. So if we need this, let's just not have it be up at the top of Main Street. You know what I'm saying?
I'm more than willing to do
Yeah,
that. I
so-
don't think there's anybody up here that's not more than willing to do that.
And that's what I get. So when you want a solution, we're probably not going to have a miracle, but I'll go to the town, see what you guys hear back from, and then let's go from there.
Protect our kids.
Yeah, I
Really
worry
important.
about that.
And you can't trust what anybody tells you when they say something doesn't hurt you. Go look. We're gonna wrap this up, and it's almost 8, and go ahead, hon.
I just have a quick comment. I did want to say that I spoke to Talmadge from the county, and he said that they are in the process of making some changes. It's not going to help us, but he said as a result of what has happened, they're going to start working on changing those regulations and things so that, you know, this stuff doesn't happen again. So that's one good thing.
Well, you guys can make a resolution like that. You can make a rule.
We can. Yeah.
And if everybody here votes on it, maybe they have to comply to it.
Tim.
Thank you. Tim Tate, 760 Grave Street. I mean, just trying to look like we're moving towards the end of this meeting, and obviously a critical piece of information is Vertical Bridge's response. And I think it's just important that the board, and I think you understand the levity of the situation and the tenacity in which you need to pursue Vertical Bridges for response, and not just reside on waiting for an answer. And I trust everybody understands that. But then the question is, how does that information come back to the community? How do we get transparency into that response? I think if the board receives that information and sits on it, and has a number of internal discussions, you're gonna continue to lose trust and credibility with the community. And so I think it's more about us leaving, knowing when we're gonna get that next piece of information, when we're gonna get back together, and what that information does for the next step. And so it's hard to make decisions without having that, but just knowing that the board has that as its highest priority and is employing a wide range of follow-ups and urgency to get information from Vertical Bridge, and then come back to us.
And if you have a deadline for when you need the petition to go along with the argument to get out of the contract, let us know that too, so we can get it going and circulate it and be done with it.
Melissa.
Yeah, well, I couldn't use that position, but I was just thinking when we were talking about the distance to the school that it is, if there was a way that you could work with the school to, I guess we never thought of it when we were talking about it. There's a lot of my kids' friends live in the area, so they're not necessarily citizens of Nucla, but they're still impacted by it. So I was wondering if you get more response if the school puts out a newsletter once every week, if they just, simple gauge interest or not.
Maybe a petition at the school to be signed by parents, all the kids that go there.
I don't ever go in school, but I
But the newsletter is a good idea.
I was thinking of our school newsletter, comes out every week, if it, get a little more response.
Say one last thing to the board. Thank you for, the contract's been signed, correct? And you all are willing to renegotiate, so to speak, and give everybody an opportunity, so, thank you.
Thank you. And I know this is off the topic, but since I first was on this board in 2017, went for years and years with absolutely not one person sitting in the audience. And it's unfortunate that it's come to something like this, that we're at the point of having this community involvement and this community conversation. But it is vital, and it shouldn't stop just because we find resolution to this, whatever the next thing is. You don't all have to show up every time, but it is very helpful for y'all to be present and know what's going on. And I feel super confident, I've said this before, but I feel confident in the people that I sit on this board with, that the decisions they're making are always with the best interests of the citizens of this town. We don't always agree. You guys and us are not always gonna agree, but the only way we're gonna find these answers is to have these conversations. So I appreciate every one of you guys coming tonight. And I am going to ask if we can adjourn this meeting if I have a motion.
I have a question first.
Oh,
Yes, can we look at what the lawyer suggested and compare it to the lease?
No, we're not, when we have advice that comes from the attorney, it is confidential information to the board, and it's to the board's discretion when they release that or if they release that.
So how do we make sure that the advice that the lawyer gave got into the lease?
Well, I guess clearly you don't trust any of us, so, I don't know the
It's
answer to
not
that anymore.
everybody. I don't exactly trust that it went into the lease. So yeah,
Well,
I would
can
want to
tell you what
compare
the
the
committee
lawyers.
provides versions of the lease and from the attorney, with the attorney's letterhead on it, giving us their advice on the lease.
And he said 50 years, and is the town on there as additional insured? Like, did you make sure that everything got on there? Or did you just hear it from your manager that everything got on there?
We heard it from the attorney. That information was directly sent to the board and our town manager.
I know that, Ray Davis, 631 Pine Street, Vanderbilt. I know that government leases are usually between 50 and 99 years. So the 50 years is at the lower end of the average for a government lease. So he probably advised 50 years because it's the least it would go.
Yeah, the lawyer didn't advise anything else. I don't think that was a particular sticking point of the clause that the lawyer thought we should worry about. So as far as that goes, yeah. He didn't advise anything different on that.
Okay. Last one. We really are going to adjourn. Go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to say thank you for giving the community an opportunity to air our concerns and our questions. I understand that you're in a position of authority as to what is handled by the town. You have been elected or appointed by this community. And the fact of the matter is, there are always going to be disagreements. And I hope that we can come to some kind of resolution that's going to be acceptable to everybody. That's probably not going to happen, but one can but hope. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I can only say that, as with any organization, a degree of complacency sets in, especially when you don't get feedback from people. You have public meetings, you have a board meeting every 2 weeks, and nobody really shows up. So yes, you do tend to get complacent, and yes, it is a fault, and we suffer from it, but I can't excuse it, but I can only say that it does happen. So public involvement is always a plus.
I'd entertain the motion to adjourn.